Moving from hobby to profession in trading is not marked by a single decision, a profitable month, or the moment you quit another job. It is a gradual psychological shift that unfolds quietly, often unnoticed at first, as your relationship with markets, money, and responsibility begins to change. Trading as a hobby is fueled by curiosity and excitement. Trading as a profession is sustained by restraint structure and an almost uncomfortable level of honesty with oneself. Trading literature written by career traders makes one thing clear: the distance between these two states is not bridged by strategy alone, but by a fundamental reorientation of how you think about work, risk, and time. In the hobby phase, trading exists alongside life. It fits into spare hours. Emotional energy is abundant, and mistakes feel tolerable because consequences are limited. Wins feel validating. Losses feel frustrating, but rarely threatening. Many traders linger here longer than they realize, mistaking intermittent profitability for readiness. The defining characteristic of a hobby trader is not lack of intelligence or effort, but lack of accountability. There is always something else to fall back on. This safety net, while comforting, delays the development of professional behavior because urgency has not yet been replaced by responsibility. The transition begins when trading stops being about entertainment or curiosity and starts being about consistency. This shift is rarely glamorous. It often arrives through frustration, through the realization that good months, followed by bad months, are emotionally exhausting, and that randomness feels intolerable when real goals are attached to outcomes. At this stage, many traders believe the solution is a better system. In reality, the solution is a better structure around the trader. Trading literature consistently shows that professionalization begins not with improved entries, but with improved routines, clearer limits, and a willingness to treat trading like a business long before it pays like one. One of the first markers of moving toward professionalism is the way time is treated. Hobby traders trade when they feel like it. Professional traders trade when their plan allows it. Time is scheduled, not improvised. Preparation happens regardless of motivation. Review happens regardless of results. This consistency of engagement creates a feedback loop that accelerates learning. When trading becomes a career path, it can no longer depend on inspiration. It must function on days when confidence is low and markets are uncooperative. Another critical shift involves redefining success. In the hobby phase, success is measured by wins, by excitement, by stories worth telling. In the professional phase, success is measured by process adherence and capital preservation. A day with no trades can be a perfect day. A losing day can still be a successful day if rules were followed. This redefinition is emotionally difficult because it removes external validation. Trading literature often notes that this is where many aspiring professionals turn back, not because they cannot trade, but because they cannot tolerate a form of success that feels invisible. Risk management also undergoes a profound transformation. Hobby traders often treat risk as something to manage after the fact. Professionals treat risk as the starting point. Position sizing, drawdown limits, and exposure controls become non-negotiable. This is not because professionals are more fearful, but because they understand survival as a prerequisite for opportunity. A career trader does not ask how much they can make on a trade, but how little they can lose while still allowing the edge to function. This mindset shift alone separates those who trade occasionally from those who trade for a living. Financial reality also plays a role in this transition. Trading as a profession requires capital, not just market capital, but personal capital. Savings, living expenses, and emotional runway matter. Trading literature is blunt about this pressure to extract income too early destroys decision quality. Traders who succeed professionally often build slowly maintaining external income far longer than they want to, until consistency is proven and stress is reduced. Turning trading into a career is not an act of courage. It is an act of patience and planning. Another hallmark of professionalization is documentation. Hobby traders keep mental notes. Professionals keep records. Journals, statistics, performance reviews, and written plans become central tools. This documentation is not about micromanagement. It is about objectivity. When trading is your career, you cannot afford to rely on memory, mood, or intuition alone. You need evidence. Trading literature consistently emphasizes that professionals think like risk managers first and traders second. Documentation makes that possible. Equally important is the emotional shift that occurs. Trading as a career removes the option of emotional indulgence. Anger, frustration, and euphoria still appear, but they must be managed deliberately. A professional trader cannot afford emotional spirals because there is no external paycheck to offset mistakes. This reality forces a level of self-regulation that hobby trading never demands. Over time, this regulation becomes less effortful, not because emotions disappear, but because systems catch behavior before emotion can escalate. Perhaps the most underestimated change is identity. At some point, the trader stops saying, "I trade," and starts thinking, "This is my work." This identity shift brings both weight and clarity. It removes the fantasy that trading should always be enjoyable. It introduces responsibility, not just to profit, but to longevity. Trading literature often frames this moment as sobering rather than inspiring. The romance fades. What remains is craft, and it is precisely here, when trading stops being something you try and starts being something you maintain, that the final phase of the transition begins to take shape. Because at this point, the question is no longer whether you can trade, but whether you can continue to do so with discipline, humility, and emotional stability. When novelty is gone, and repetition becomes the dominant experience. And this is where the deeper work of turning trading into a true profession continues forward, without yet fully reaching its end, where trading begins to demand not just skill, but stewardship. This is the phase where the professional trader learns that the real challenge is no longer learning how to trade, but learning how to sustain the conditions under which good trading remains possible. The markets will keep changing, but the deeper work now lies in protecting focus, discipline, and psychological balance over years rather than weeks. What once felt like progress through acquisition now feels like progress through maintenance. In this stage, consistency becomes more valuable than growth. The professional trader understands that aggressive expansion often hides fragility. Instead of pushing size at the first sign of success, they wait for evidence that performance is stable across different market regimes. Drawdowns are no longer emergencies to escape, but signals to interpret. This calm relationship with fluctuation is not detachment. It is responsibility matured. Trading literature often highlights that careers are built not on peak performance, but on the ability to remain functional during inevitable periods of stagnation or decline. Another defining shift is the relationship with pressure. As trading becomes a career, pressure does not disappear. It becomes more subtle. There is pressure to remain consistent, pressure to justify time spent, pressure to avoid complacency. The professional trader learns to manage this pressure structurally rather than emotionally. They limit trading hours. They protect rest. They schedule reviews and breaks deliberately. This is not about comfort. It is about sustainability. Burnout is not a personal failure in trading. It is a systems failure. and professionals design their lives to prevent it long before symptoms appear. Accountability also deepens. When trading is your profession, there is no room for self-deception. Losses cannot be blamed on bad luck alone. Wins cannot be used as proof that rules no longer matter. The professional trader becomes their own manager, auditor, and risk committee. This internal governance is demanding, but it is also stabilizing. It replaces emotional swings with structured response. Over time, this governance becomes a quiet source of confidence, not because outcomes are guaranteed, but because behavior is regulated. One of the most important lessons at this level is learning to live with boredom without sabotaging it. Professional trading is repetitive by nature. The same setups, the same reviews, the same routines. There are long stretches where nothing new happens. Hobby traders seek novelty. Professionals seek reliability. This shift is subtle but decisive. Trading becomes less about stimulation and more about execution. The trader who can remain engaged without excitement has crossed an invisible threshold. There is also a deeper humility that develops. Career traders know that longevity depends on staying teachable. Markets will eventually expose rigidity. What worked will stop working. Ego becomes expensive. Professionals adapt slowly and deliberately, guided by data rather than frustration. Trading literature consistently notes that the traders who last are not the most confident, but the most flexible within structure. They change without abandoning their core principles. Over time, trading as a profession also reshapes one's relationship with success. Success is no longer celebrated loudly. It is respected quietly. A good year is one where discipline held. A bad year is one that did not break the process. The emotional highs flatten. What replaces them is a steady sense of alignment. This may seem anticlimactic from the outside, but it is deeply satisfying from within. And so the journey from hobby to profession does not end with freedom or mastery, but with responsibility accepted and renewed daily. Trading becomes less about chasing opportunity and more about preserving the ability to participate well. It becomes a craft practiced in silence, judged by behavior rather than headlines, sustained by routines rather than motivation. And it is here, in this quiet commitment to showing up correctly again and again, that trading truly earns its place as a profession, not because it promises certainty, but because it demands and rewards those willing to treat uncertainty with respect, patience, and disciplined care over the long arc of time. If this reflection on turning trading into a true career resonates with where you are now, consider subscribing to continue exploring the deeper realities of professional trading life, and leave a comment sharing which part of this transition feels most challenging for you at this stage.